Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cyclical Investors Club YouTube channel. My name's Corey Kramer. Today, we're going to be analyzing, to some degree, Alibaba stock, but really, this video is going to be about Chinese stocks in general, especially for foreign investors. And so, I'm going to go ahead and post this one on the YouTube channel for free, even though this Alibaba is not in the S&P 500, which is usually the standard that I use, because I just think this is a broader topic. And I've had several people asking about BABA recently, and I can see why. I hadn't checked on the stock price for a while, but it's down at all-time lows again, or all-time recent lows at least. So, as always, this isn't individual investing advice. This is just how I think about stocks, and in particular, how I think about investing in Chinese stocks and ADRs and other derivatives of China right now. So let's start by looking at how much I lost on China in the past couple years and kind of give you a history. So I owned BABA. I was one of the first people to buy the BABA dip, and after I bought it, I learned Charlie Munger was buying too. I bought it in December 2020 on this dip, probably close to the bottom of that. Actually, it was of that initial dip off the top, and it was the first Chinese stock that I bought. And then in 2021, I kept buying other ones. So I bought BABA, Tencent, Baidu, VIP. And I had a couple others that were closely related to China in some way. And then I had a couple more that were just kind of tied to China, sales and things like that were related to China that lost money. A lot of them lost money as well. So as a total position in Chinese stocks, I probably only had in between a 5 and 10% weighting, depending on how you want to count them. But in the past 5 years of running my investing service, the general Chinese stock investments as a whole was easily the worst mistake that I made over the past 5 years. Now, I was pretty careful about the way that I did it, so the damage was limited to some degree, but I'm generally pretty careful anyway, so for me, it was a big mistake, and I'll show you some of the returns here to prove it. So now overall, if you just look, so these are just realized returns. So I've sold all these at some point, and so we've had in the past 5 years about 100 individual stock positions that we've sold. I created this spreadsheet to kind of show the performance of the individual strategies. So you can see I have the strategies listed here. China kind of is its own strategy of emerging market. But we can look here. So overall, you can see even with the losses that I took on China, we're still beating the S&P 500 during the holding periods here by a fair amount, actually, when all things are considered. This doesn't include the stocks I still own that haven't been sold. So, let's now. Signature Bank was one that was very fluky. That happened over a weekend. So those things happen, and it was a 1% weighted position, and that will happen from time to time. But once we get past that, we get into Chinese stock, Chinese stock, Chinese stock. The next worst three, and then after that, I don't have any that are worse than 50% or worse than 40% even. But if we go up, some of the ones I bought a little later, like Tencent, 20% loss, Baidu, 22%. We have China Yukai. That one I bought well before then. It was like an industrial. That was a small loss. I basically sold all these on May 8th, 2023 when I made some changes. I made changes, that's not a Chinese, but I made some just strategy changes, and one of them was to sell the Chinese stocks. Now, I knew there were risks associated with the Chinese stocks, but in 2021, the market was in pretty much a bubble almost everywhere. I was able to buy a few defense stocks, a few healthcare stocks that have done well since then. But that year, especially early in the year, I knew inflation was going to go up, but cash was yielding zero still. So holding cash had a cost associated with it, which would end up being about 20% so far. Um, and and I had a lot of cash still. So it was, when I looked around, like China was one of the only places that looked kind of cheap. And my thinking the whole time was eventually China will open up its economy. This was during 2022. I was like, you just wait. Sure, they're taking their time. They have their own issues they're trying to deal with. Gave them the benefit of the doubt. And really what I was thinking was, okay, things will probably go back to the way they were before COVID eventually if we just wait. So that was my thinking. I think that really fundamentally changed after the Russian invasion of Ukraine. And then we saw more where China is basically tacitly, at the very least, supporting Russia's invasion and pretty much supporting anybody that's against the West, I would say, since then. If not explicitly, then implicitly. So and then they crack down on all sorts of things, tech related for what they think is national security purposes, made it difficult to do business. Pretty much, I mean, when you look at it, it looks like they're preparing for a war. I mean, it really does. If you just listen to what they're saying, watch what they're doing, every time they do something, it's to try to control propaganda in their country, control. And they've always done this to some degree, but actually going in and controlling the businesses. So for me, the thing is, China has never really wanted foreign investors to make any money in their country. They want foreign investors to build factories and the money to basically flow to China, which is totally fine. That's what they should be doing. This is why I always kind of gave them a little break. I thought people were a little hard on them. If that's what they should be doing as leaders of China. But the question then is, okay, if that's what they're going to do, then as an investor, you don't have an obligation to invest in China. All these Chinese, if you go back and look at like KWEB or some China ETF, they've made no money. All those IPOs took money from investors from around the world, the majority from the United States, and they took the investment money to China, and then it's never come back in the form of anything, really. I'm sure traders can trade it, but that's not like investing. So China's not going to let that money flow out of China to foreign investors. I just don't see any inclination to ever let that happen in the near future. And if anything, it's moving in the opposite direction. So to me as an investor, that's their choice. It's their country. But I don't need to, I'm not going to invest in that kind of environment. And it doesn't appear anytime soon we're going back to like pre-COVID like relationship with China. And I wouldn't fall for any olive branches. It's like Lucy holding the football for Charlie Brown, right? I'm not the type of person that once you pull the football from me once, I would get back up and try to kick it again. That's just not me. So I'll take my losses and move on, and I'll find a country that's better to invest in. Brazil is much better. So, yeah, I mean, that's just how I feel. There's opportunities elsewhere. If that's the choice that they want to make, they can make that choice. But this is what's going to happen to their stock market, and this is what's going to happen to their economy. I mean, that's just how it's going to work. So they get to decide if they want to go the way of Russia, and that's the route they want to go down. That's up to them. But I don't need to be investing in it. So that's my just general feeling on Alibaba, not on Alibaba the company, but just where it's located and where it has to do business. So, and all the rest of them. I don't think China is going to let anybody make any money in China. They aren't even letting the people who live in China make very much money anymore. Once if the money interferes with the power ever, which is what we saw with Jack Ma, then it will be shut down. So, and then you see the extortion of Alibaba having to give money basically. And look, this stuff happens all over the place, right? But what happened? Well, money was invested from overseas into Alibaba, and now it's going into China through these roundabout ways, and it's not coming back out. And it's not coming back out to investors. So to me, I just say avoid them. Just avoid them. Let them do their thing. There's plenty of other places in the world that is more friendly to business and more friendly to investors, and that's where the money ought to go. So that's my thought on Alibaba. It doesn't mean sometime in the far future I would, if things changed, but you got to see the change first, I think, before any of these investments become attractive. All right, thanks for watching the channel, and if you found this useful, hit the subscribe button. I'll see everybody later.